Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Football Fignuts podcast. This is Season 6, Episode 36, but if you counted all of them, it's 275 episodes of stuff. I'm Craig.
And I am Britt.
And Britt, we're back. It is the last episode of Season 6.
Season 6, we barely knew ye.
That's true.
This feels like the longest season we've ever done.
Yeah, we adjusted our recording schedule, off-season schedule a little. I think it helped a tad.
Yeah, I do. I think particularly with the off season, less is more. So I really love the fact that we weren't we first started this, we were like 50 episodes a year, no exceptions. We got to get 50 episodes in. I don't care if we have to record 3 1 week. We're doing this. Ah! And we were like, why? Why? If there's not a lot to talk about and we want to go touch grass, why do we have to keep ourselves to this self-imposed number? And so the last season or two, we've been like, you know what? Let's just play it by ear. We're not going to commit. The only thing we commit to is our open of the season schedule that leads up to the season-long draft, and to do, with rare exception, every week of the season. That's all we really commit to. And even this year, I think we missed a couple of weeks because of illness and such. You know, I did get COVID and all.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Fun times.
But anyway, I'm getting ahead of ourselves. The season 6 finale kicks off in a minute. But first, Craig, what are you drinking?
So today I am drinking a beer by Athletic Brewing Company.
Oh, lovely.
This is called Apricot Farmhouse.
Ooh. That definitely sounds like something my wife would like.
It smells like apricot.
Yeah, I'm not a super fan of fruited beers, which is weird because, as we all know, I love like pumpkin spice and shit. But the fruity beers, it's like, okay, I like stuff that's got a little bit of a citrusy taste, but that's about it.
Yeah, definitely has a little. It's actually rather juicy, actually. But there is like a little slight lingering of apricot that stays with you.
Nice. I am drinking diet soda, and I'll tell you why. I'm glad you asked. I am drinking diet soda because I had a far too good time last weekend, and this is going to be a long weekend for me with the holiday. After tomorrow, I don't have to work for 5 days, and based on the week of work I've had, the beer is going to flow, so I am going easy tonight.
Makes sense.
With all of that said, let's jump into our stuff. Craig, giving or receiving on the first burning hot take?
I will receive.
Okay, so let's start with... Actually, I'm going to save this for later in the cast because I've got other things. Multiple outlets... I'm going to talk about my Chiefs for a second. Multiple outlets are reporting that Sky Moore is going to have a bigger portion of the Chiefs' attention this year. CBS Sports said that he's earned Patrick Mahomes' trust. NFL Network says the Chiefs are high on Sky Moore after a quiet rookie year. The website 4for4 says Sky Moore is a fantasy football lineup decision you don't want to make in 2023.
You can say the same thing about last year, too.
Absolutely. And we all know last year I was high on him. Get it? High, Sky, get it? It's funny. What do you know about humor? I was big on him last year, and obviously he did not have the year that we thought, or some of us thought he would. But so given that, does all this chatter interest you at all about Sky Moore in 2023?
No. No. I mean, maybe for best ball, sure. But
oh yeah, he's a great best ball stash.
After what I saw last year of him, I need to see him like catch.
Yeah,
on a consistent basis.
Listen, when I read this article earlier today. I saw it in passing. I said I want to bring it up during the podcast night. So I come home and I run the phrase Sky Moore News through Google.
Okay.
And all those headlines come up. And then the next thing down is what people also ask with similar words. And the most frequently asked question with the word Sky Moore in it is, will Sky Moore play this week? And if you have to ask the question to Google if your player is going to play, then that's probably somebody you don't want shares of. He is going to go he went early last year in a lot of the formats, a lot of the drafts I was in. I expect him to go early again this year. I am probably going to have very few shares of Sky Moore. Very few shares. So, okay, so we're both like, all right, Sky Moore, you got to show me something. We gave you the benefit of the doubt last year, and Patrick Mahomes says you're good. Sure.
I mean, he has to say that, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
He can't say, yeah, he sucks. He's terrible. Like, he's not.
Yeah, what's he gonna come out there? He's gonna pull an Aaron Rodgers. Some of the guys here need to really start working harder if they want to be real pros. Yeah, that's he just saw what happens to Aaron Rodgers. He's like, damn, like 4 or 5 years from now, I get one more injury and they ship me off to the Jets. Fuck, I don't want that. So, all right, what do you got for me?
For me, I saw this headline. Actually, it was today. And this said, I want to get your initial gut reaction to this headline.
Okay,
ready? Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones says Giants have grown confident going into 2023. We know we can compete with anybody.
Okay, so the first part of that sentence, I believe wholeheartedly. I do believe the Giants are confident going into this season, and they may believe that they can play with anybody. But the second part of that sentence, that they can play with anybody, no. They may believe that. That's not true.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I had the same initial reaction too.
I don't know what to do with Daniel Jones and the Giants. Every time I write the guy off, he actually starts to show signs of brilliance. And then you pick him up off of the goddamn waivers because the Giants, won 5 of their first 6 games last year?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, maybe this is starting to turn around. And then it's just Daniel Jones doing his best Eli Manning confused looking impressions. And you're like, here we are again. So yeah. I think I'm done with Daniel Jones.
And, Saquon still doesn't have a deal. Like, he has until July 17th.
There are reports now that Saquon and Josh Jacobs could start the year as holdouts.
I mean, it won't shock me because, I mean, if you think about his injury history, mm-hmm. If he doesn't think the Giants are going to give him X amount of years for X amount of money,
mm-hmm.
Again, like, especially running backs, these guys have to try to make the most money they can in the little amount of time they have because running backs out of everyone have an extremely short shelf life. Ask Cinch.
Yeah.
He'll tell you.
Yes.
So is he going to feel like it's worth the risk to him and the rest of his career, however long that may be, to like play for, let's see, I think his franchise tender is under 10 million, just under 10 million. So to him, is that worth it? Like, oh, if I go out there and play for 1 year, I can break my knee again or whatever. And then what? So
I agree. I don't see why. I understand that whole idea of like our careers are shorter than everybody else's. Our windows of opportunity, the wear and tear on our bodies is shorter than everybody else. Yeah, all of that is true. But then you got the guys who play forever, like Marcus Allen, who played for 1,000 years.
That's true. That's true. But I don't know, people are more durable. Or there was less AstroTurf back then. I don't know.
There's that too. And there wasn't back in Marcus Allen's day, there wasn't this automatic assumption that you leave a season at 28 years old as a prime of your life and come back at 29 years old with a cane and yelling at the rookies about how things used to be. And that's the perception of running backs in the league. It used to be like after they turned 30 or turned 31 or so, you would start to see this shift. Now it's like teams were like a year earlier. Like they don't want to bring on the 29-year-old because they assume they're only going to get 1 year out of him. Mm-hmm. So, and of course there's Cinch's idea, never give a running back a second contract. Which he's been very vocal about, and he doesn't seem to be wrong. I'm still waiting. I'll embrace any theory until I can disprove it, or it fails Occam's razor.
Fair.
For those who know it, Occam's razor is a old mathematical concept, which is just the simplest solution is the preferred solution, and it's the same sort of thing. Until somebody can show me, and it doesn't make a difference. If you walk up to me and say, aliens are absolutely real. Okay, well, let me see. What's the likelihood of it? Does it survive Occam's razor? Well, sure. I don't have any reason to believe aliens couldn't exist. Okay, where's your proof? Well, I know a guy who knows Bigfoot, who has foot. Okay, no, that's not proof. So when Cinch comes up and goes, "You never give a running back a second contract," and I'm like, huh. And I have to sit there and scratch my head trying to figure out where I can disprove this, because I'm always looking for the other angle, and I have yet to find it. I'm sure there's somebody out there. Hey, write to us, email us, and go, "Hey, Britt, you want to know who got a second contract and freaking deserved it? This guy," because I'm having trouble thinking of who it is.
Yeah,
I'm really having trouble. They typically don't get second contracts that they deserve. So, okay, so my second burning hot take for you is football, but fun.
Okay.
It's my dear personal friend, Travis Kelce.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Travis Kelce said, I'm trying to find out, he told Vanity Fair that they talked about his failed drug test that got him suspended at Cincinnati and how embarrassed he was. Mm-hmm. And then he started talking about the marijuana use being looser now in the NFL because of the changes in drug laws.
Right.
Quote, "If you just stop in the middle of July, you're fine. A lot of guys stop a week before and they still pass because everybody's working out in the heat and sweating their tail off. Nobody's really getting hit for it anymore." When they asked him, "Well, how prevalent do you think this use is in the league?" Travis said probably up to 80% of the players.
Okay.
I'm sorry, technically anywhere from 50 to 80% of the league's more than 1,600 players currently use cannabis.
Okay. All right.
Greg, we all know you cannot take anything Kelce says at face value ever.
You can't. That is true.
Do you believe that 50 to 80% of the league is using cannabis?
You know what? I do actually believe that. I would not be surprised if that is the number. And cannabis in some form or another, not necessarily smoking it per se.
That's a good point. Edibles is that is cannabis use.
Mm-hmm. Technically, yes, it is. So yeah, I could see it, especially if they're doing it for either anxiety before the game or pain relief after the game, or just hey, we won kind of thing. Yeah, I can see it.
And then, of course, you have a conversation like this. We can't forget that Josh Gordon essentially lost his career to something that everybody's now doing.
Yeah, I feel bad for Josh. He
got 10 years too early.
Yeah.
It just rattles my bones. I don't know. So, as a quick aside, we are watching the Newswire because ESPN is reporting that there is a, quote, handful, end quote, of suspensions coming to NFL players who broke the league's gambling policy.
Yep.
In the next week. So we will be watching to see who could be on that list. That should be very interesting to see how that plays out. But all right, Craig, we did promise the people that we would talk about the South and West conferences.
Mm-hmm.
I'm setting a clock for 5 minutes. I got nothing to say about the entirety of the Southern divisions. They're all bad. And if there's a good player on those bad teams, then you still take them with the risk of being a good player on a bad team. And that's my analysis.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, maybe David Carr is a good option.
I want you to stop and realize what you just said.
I know. I thought about that after it came out of my mouth.
You are so desperate to find something redeemable that you just invoked the name David Carr. And that's not a slight on you.
I did say David Carr.
Yeah, but it's okay. But just realize in that moment how desperate you are to be positive about this.
Yeah, I know.
You reached for David Carr.
I said David Carr when I meant to say Derek Carr. Why do they name their kids with D's? Even if you'd said, and I took you to mean Derek Carr.
I'm sitting here saying David too. but I'm thinking Derek in my head, and my logic still applies.
You know why? Because I was looking at the Texans logo when I said that.
That's fair.
So, yeah, sorry.
That's fair. That is like, oh, honey, we may not be able to go out to that special function you wanted to go to because we just can't find a babysitter. At this point, I'd literally take anyone, and your wife looks at you and goes, "What about that nice Jason Voorhees guy who lives down the block? He seems to like kids." That's how desperate picking Derek Carr there is.
Yeah, because I'm looking at everyone else and
there's nothing. The Saints are I'm sorry. I know Alvin Kamara is still there unless he goes to jail. I have no idea where they are with that. The Saints are a shell of what they once were. Tampa Bay looks completely lost without Brady at the helm. Yep. The Carolina Panthers apparently still play football.
They do, and the Falcons are a complete rebuild, even though everyone's really high on the running back they drafted, but still.
They could win this division this year and still not be a good team.
Any one of these teams can win this division.
Yes, I refuse to pick a winner in that division. I refuse.
Yep. And then, if you look at the AFC South, so yeah, there's Trevor Lawrence. And
on the youngest team to ever make a playoff run like they did last year, and then completely shit themselves in front of the freaking Kansas City Chiefs. I played that episode, by the way, the week we went into the second round of the playoffs, and I heard myself say, "I'm scared. I'm scared. This is the team nobody wants to play." And I was just like, man, that did not age well at all.
No, well, I mean, initially that's what everyone thought because they were so, they had a hot streak going on, and so you never know.
And they had that big comeback.
They did, and didn't Mahomes get hurt in that game early?
That might have been the game he got hurt in, yeah. That might have been when he rolled his ankle. But still, I mean, what was even the final score of that game?
I would have to look it up. I don't know.
I mean, the Chiefs, it was 27-20.
All right, so it was close. It was a one-score game.
But Jacksonville outscored them so it was a 10-point game going into the fourth quarter. It was 17-10 at halftime. Okay, it's a lot closer score-wise, but I watched that game. There was never a moment in that game that I was like, okay, we are absolutely screwed. Well, maybe when Mahomes got hurt, and that is that Mahomes did leave for a series. That was the one where he fought them. He didn't want to go to the locker room. He was like, I'm fine. And then finally, a doctor was like, you go get checked out or I'm going to pull you. And he got pissed off, threw his helmet, and went into because Chad Henne threw exactly 7 passes. But Chad Henne was 5 of 7 for a touchdown. So he actually had a higher QBR than Mahomes that game. There you go.
Did he?
Yes, he did.
Did not know that.
It was an 89.8. Not a great QBR, but a better QBR.
Right.
That was I remember that game because I was like, oh, Travis Etienne's gonna eat us alive. He had 62 yards. Isaiah Pacheco had 95. Yeah. The leading receiver for the Jacksonville was Zay Jones.
Was it?
Hey, Juju Smith-Schuster caught 2 passes that game. Good for him.
Hey, remember him?
Yeah, I try not to.
And then yeah. Then no one's on the Colts. I'm off the Taylor train.
They're dead.
Nothing. I got nothing for that. And the Titans have Derrick Henry. So
the Titans could again win that division just because there's nobody else. I mean, the Titans had to have a complete meltdown for the Jaguars to get it. So yeah.
What's funny on their team page on NFL.com? I did not know their stadium was named Nissan Stadium, but really, it says established 1960. I just find that funny because
who is that?
The Titans, because probably most people don't realize that's the Oilers.
Yeah, so that they weren't playing there in 1960. So what the hell was in that stadium before the Oilers became the Titans?
I think they built that stadium for them. No.
Oh, but they weren't there in 1960.
No, I think it means the team was established in 1960.
Oh, okay. So this is like the opposite of when the Browns became the Ravens.
Yes.
Remember that Art Modell was like, "We're leaving everything behind. We're a brand new franchise." I was okay.
Okay, see you.
I will never forget my favorite moment of that last season in Cleveland when the Ravens became the Browns. The very last home game, the folks with the tickets directly above the owner's box brought a gigantic banner that just read "Home of the bravest coward ever" and arrows that pointed at his empty box.
Really?
Yes. Oh my God. I'll have to see if I can find the picture because I was like, that is freaking awesome. Good for you guys. Good for you. Okay, so we're already over time on this, so we're gonna move to the West. I'm a Kansas City Chief fan. The Raiders are garbage. The Chargers can't get out of their own way.
Chargers are good up until like their bye week. Or
and
November.
The Chargers. This is so. Oh, the Chargers are a young team. All they need is some experience. We've said that for the last 4 years now. This is what, fourth year for Herbert, or his third full? I think it's his third full. Because he didn't start the first couple games of his first year. They had to stab what's his name in the lung for him to get a start.
Oh yeah, remember that?
So, I'm tired of hearing how about the Chargers just need experience. They're going to pull it together. They've gone through like 6 head coaches in 4 years. I don't know how that's possible, but they have. I'm just tired of hearing about it. And Denver is a tire fire.
I just looked at the Chargers roster.
Mm-hmm.
They have a receiver named Pokey Wilson.
Okay, how deep on the chart is he?
They're
looking at a depth chart?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna pick up Pokey Wilson in a league this year. I'll stash him. You know what? I'm gonna do that in a best ball. I haven't done any best ball. I've been so lazy. I'm gonna do a best ball this weekend. When I get to the last pick, regardless of what I need, I'm gonna draft Pokey Wilson. You only have one quarterback. Give me Pokey Wilson.
Justin Herbert, this 4 years experience.
4 years, and don't forget. So his first year he didn't start. So he's got 4 years. All right, so 3 years as a starter. This team has not gelled under him. He is an amazing physical talent. I don't think he has the leadership to get this team where they want to be.
You think it's the leadership, or you think it's the coaching? Because hasn't he gone through 2 coaches already?
Yes, maybe 3. He might be on his 3rd coach. But yeah, it could be either. It could be both. I know Cinch is big on him. Cinch right now is
yelling at his truck.
And he's very upset because he is a Justin Herbert truther. There's a little Justin Herbert bobblehead on the dashboard of the truck. He's gently stroking it and telling him it's going to be okay. But I don't see him ever pulling this together.
No.
If there's anybody who needs a change of scenery to become what he needs to become, I think it's Justin Herbert.
Yep, and Cinch is wishing he would go to New England.
Oh my God.
He would implode. Can you imagine that? Justin Herbert signs with the Patriots. I think Cinch would combust.
I think there are very rare situations in which I would ever joke about anyone selling their soul. But I think honestly, if Cinch
would consider it.
If a man in a dark hood with a contract appeared on his mail route and said Justin Herbert to the Patriots, well, what will it cost me? It will cost you Mac Jones and your soul. I think he would be like, "Where's your fucking pen? Do we have to do this in blood? Because I will prick a finger right now. Let's do this." I think he would do it in a heartbeat.
I think so.
I mean, you want to make it. It'll only cost you your soul, but Mac Jones needs to move in with you. Since you'll be like, I don't know. I don't really need my soul, and I do have the extra bedroom. So, you know. All right. So anyway, that's the AFC West. I just don't see anything. I'm not even. I mean, and that does not mean the Chiefs are going to steamroll to another 14-3 season. I just don't see on paper any of these teams really competing with them. So I'm not worried about them. The NFC West is just a complete crapshoot.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really going to be between. Maybe not so much fantasy, but teams that are going to be good. It's either going to be the Seahawks or the 49ers, but
yeah,
fantasy-wise, I don't want anyone on the Cardinals. I don't want anyone on the Rams.
Oh, God, the Cardinals went downhill so fast.
Yeah, because they let Mr. Call of Duty do whatever he wanted.
I know last year people were warning me. People were like, you need to start backing off the Cardinals because I've been a big pro-Cardinal guy. But I thought that they would start to pull it together, and now it's a complete rebuild again.
I think they're done with Kyler Murray. I think they're looking at that giant contract they gave him, and they're like, "Where's the clause where we can void this?" because
There's usually several.
I think they're looking to do that soon-ish.
Listen, I work in HR. I hear every day about, this person wants to quit, or this person needs to get fired, blah, blah, blah. And it's never that easy in the real world either. There's all sorts of laws that protect people, and there's all sorts of considerations, So it's not like, I've had people come to my office and go, I can't stand working with this person. I'm going to fire him. Okay, get ready for a lawsuit. Wait, what do you mean I can't? There's laws, guys. Yes, Connecticut's a right to work state, but there's also laws against certain things that you can't do, and you open yourself up. Same thing with contracts. That's why contracts and programs and employee guides are written a certain way, is because they want outs. Employers want outs if you don't do your job, and they'll find it with him eventually. I think they will. And then the NFLPA, who has a new executive director, can sue them, and they'll be fine.
Oh yeah, just like every other year.
Yeah. So the other thing I want to talk to you about tonight, and we're not going to be a very, very long episode because we got to gear up for next week, which, by the way, I'm going to give you some extra time tonight off mic because you still haven't gotten me your projections and rankings.
No, I'll be doing that soon.
How soon is soon? Because I asked for them by, I think, yesterday.
Probably tomorrow.
Okay, that's fine. We have to give a shout out to Sean. Sean is the first. I never count myself because I'm the one who's cracking the whip and saying, get me your rankings, get me your rankings, get me your rankings so I can compile them. I always, once everybody gives me theirs, I throw mine into a list. I've got them kind of circling around in my head, but I don't actually put them pen to paper until everybody else does. This year, Sean, who we normally have to chase, and last year, you may recall, had to ask, when you write down just the word Walker, who are you talking about? I mean, it's like, what wide receiver do you like this week? I like Smith. What? So anyway, yeah. Sean got off his ass, and we have Sean's rankings.
I still say he did that drunk while he was sitting in the woods.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how he got it done.
True. It made sense, right? It made sense.
I haven't actually read them. I typically don't read your guys' rankings until I do my own. Because I find that you guys influence me, and that's not fair. The point of this. The point of this is for four guys with their own opinions to come together and add their own consent and come to a consensus based off of each other's thoughts, and then argue about it on the podcast and give some insight. So if I sit here and I'm like, oh, look how high Sean has this guy, maybe I should bump him up a couple. I don't want to do that. Right. I want right, wrong, or indifferent. I want my rankings to be my rankings, and so the consensus stays pure. So it's all right. So you're going to get me yours. Cinch, I know you're listening. I need your rankings. Get out a piece of paper and a pen. Write them down. Take a picture and send it to me. Every year he sends me a snapshot of his personal notebook. Do it.
Whatever works. Whatever works.
But the other thing I wanted to talk about, because I just found this interesting, and I want to be very clear. This is an article I read. I read a lot of different sites. Fantasy Points is one of them. I love fantasypoints.com. If you're going to subscribe anywhere, I recommend fantasypoints.com. I was reading an article by Scott Barrett. He's tired of talking about touches for running backs because not all touches are the same.
Okay.
Targets are different than rushing touchdowns, are different than rushing yards, are different than yards per target, are different than yards per carry, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
He has created what he calls weighted opportunities, where he takes a correlation to the statistic and how relevant it is to fantasy production. For example, his highest category, and again, not going to give numbers, and I'm not going to give his whole system. This is his material. I just think it's an interesting conversation. He finds the highest correlation of any particular stat is total yards. Total yards equates more closely to fantasy points in terms of, correlating 1-to-1 than, say, targets. Then even ready to this, it's more important than rushing touchdowns. So I'm looking at this list, and I'm like, weighted opportunities is an amazing concept. it doesn't sit there and say, okay, it doesn't matter how many yards you get per reception. It's not that's an important stat, but it's not as important as rushing touchdowns or red zone rushing attempts, etc. Fascinating concept. So I wanted to run it by you. We always talk about opportunity, right? The more plays you're on the field, the more time you touch the football, that's what leads to fantasy points. What do you think about a guy who's like, maybe we've been oversimplifying this, and maybe not all touches or all snaps are created equal? What are your thoughts?
So my initial reaction to everything you just described, and then with you saying the bottom line of his theory is that correct me if I'm wrong from this. The bottom line
Sure.
of his theory is total yards is like the most important thing.
Well, it's one of them.
It's
And
one of the
it
top
correlates.
compared to like other statistics or like
Correct.
rushing touchdowns.
The person with the most total yards is most likely to have the most points.
Right.
Is what he's seeing a correlation. He's seeing a statistical correlation between total yards and fantasy points. And people always touches. It's all about snap count. It's all about touches. It's all about yards per. He's saying you can actually order these based on how likely they are to predict fantasy value and come up with a number called weighted opportunity that really gives you a better and clearer picture than just how many snaps somebody plays or how many times they touch a football.
So to me, what that sounds like is he just proved zero RB theory works.
Well,
because
okay, go ahead, finish your thoughts.
Because more often than not, a receiver is going to have way more yards than a running back.
This correlation only applies to running backs.
Oh,
he's only done this analysis on running backs. When it comes to receivers, because they accumulate fantasy points differently, I would imagine, for example, targets. Targets is an area that he targets for running backs are not going to correlate as strongly to fantasy points as they would for wide receivers, right?
Oh, okay.
Because
I see.
So this particular analysis is based solely on running backs. Now, in theory, you could absolutely do it for any position, right? You could take any stat you want and say, okay, for wide receiver, but you couldn't just say offensive players, this is the grid, because running backs score points differently than wide receivers, score points differently than tight ends. I don't even think you can lump tight ends with wide receivers in a system like this. Does that make more sense?
I don't think so. Yeah, no, it does. It does.
What do you think of that? What do you think of this concept?
It's interesting. It's definitely it's a different take because for so long in fantasy, running backs, it's been touchdowns. I think it's been like touchdowns then yards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting take.
So here's an interesting thing. So, and he puts out, and again, not going to give you a lot of information. This is absolutely this is fantasy points baby here. The number 3 player on this list from last year is Joe Mixon. And the reason it's Joe Mixon, his points per game was only 17.1. But when you weight it for the opportunities, he would have scored 18.3. So what he's really saying is the utilization of Joe Mixon is likely to lead to better production. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense.
I think this is I'm not sure that I buy into it, but man, is it a fascinating argument. Now he's also of the argument that if your points per game is, well, he does a differential here. I'm not sure how he arrives at this differential number. If the differential is negative, it's a bad sign that they're not going to get there. If it's a positive. So the highest differential on his list, believe it or not, is Tony Pollard at plus 2.9. Which means Tony Pollard is a strong candidate to get more opportunities and to be a better performer this year. I just think the analysis is fascinating to consider.
Different. That is different. It is interesting.
Because we do hear about this all the time, right? How many snaps are they on the field? I want a guy who's on the field for 80% of all snaps. I want a guy who gets a minimum of 12 touches per game, right? Blah, 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 blah. We hear those stats all the time. Here's a guy who's like, whoa. not every snap matters for each individual fantasy player, and not every touch is going to be equal. Think about Austin Eckler, who gets so many receiving yards because they like to use him on short passing situations. And sometimes he'll have more receiving yards than rushing yards in some games.
Right.
His touches are going to be different than Saquon Barkley's touches when Barkley is essentially a back and forth runner. It's not, you could give them the ball each 15 times and you're going to get a different result. So it's not always the same. And also, where is the situation? Saquon Barkley and Austin Eckler, different situations when it's 1st and goal from the 4. First and goal from the 4, the Giants are probably giving it to Barkley. The Chargers aren't necessarily giving it to Eckler. I just thought it was fascinating. So I wanted to share that theory with you and see what you thought about that. I mean, I definitely there's a ton of data in this article. I'm going to be ripping through it, but that's also why I love Fantasy Points as a site, because they have these fantastic, like, for lack of a better term, football nerd, things. What was it? What was the value guide that we? Cripes, I didn't get one this year yet. Oh my God, he sent us one. He sent us one free the last 2 years because we promoted it. Oh my God, that was another one. I'm drawing a complete blank. It's a guy who does analysis based on opportunity and availability, and every year he's like, if these guys stay healthy, these are the guys you want. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank on his name now. I have to look it up for the next episode. But so that's everything. The only other thing I had tonight, unless you want to bring something up, is I just want to remind you that we are roughly a month away from the start of pumpkin spice beer season. Yep, and this is your reminder that while you choose to limit yourself,
I do,
to having pumpkin spice only in 3 months out of the year, 4 months out of the year, the rest of us will begin indulging in it in about 30 days. Just putting you on notice so that there's no grumbling this year when there's Rosemary's Baby on this stream like 2 weeks before our fantasy draft. So
I expect it, and I hope you enjoy it.
That is what I wanted to hear. You don't have to like it. You don't have to condone my lifestyle. But just you gotta be understanding that not everybody lives the same way. So, all right. So while we have a quick minute, let me just run down. Did I miss anything? Is there anything we didn't talk about?
Fantasy wise, I don't believe so.
Okay, because I just want to run folks down to what the schedule is going to look like for the season 7 kickoff. So the next week will be the first week of July. And we reserve the right to move our recording date. So we'll always say by Friday, the episodes will be up. That's just because, this takes a lot of effort to get the different guys into the studio. So next Friday is July 7th, 2023. That'll be our season 7 kickoff. Then our QBs will be the 14th. The 21st of July, we'll talk about running backs. On the 28th of July, we will talk about wide receivers. And then our annual, the best episode of the year, the tight end kicker defensive team spectacular, the Super Show, will be on August 4th. Then we will have fantasy football roundtables, draft discussion roundtables on the 11th and 18th as we head into the meat of draft season. So, but starting next Friday, July 7th, all the way through August 18th, look forward to analysis, roundtables, rankings. We'll be here breaking it all down for you on those days. The reason why I was like, just don't hold me to these dates like gospel truth is because, we're sitting down, we're getting ready. All of a sudden I get a text from Sean. Are we supposed to record tonight? Yes, you're supposed to be online now, jackass. Oh, I'm at a dance recital. Who dances? Oh, the dog. Okay, that's a problem. That's a problem. I don't want to know why you have a dog that takes dancing classes, but, there's also, I should tell you, Craig.
Yeah.
There are whispers in the wind.
Oh.
Of a weekend trip, a Fignuts weekend trip to Portland, Maine this year in the fall, around the middle of October. So that we can just go to Portland and drink pumpkin beer, because Portland, Maine has several good breweries, including Pumpkinhead and Allagash. So, yeah, just so you know, that might be something that, since when you hear this, yes, you're welcome to come with us, but you got to book a room, you got to drive yourself. So, but yes, there is a rumor that this may be happening. Fig Nuts on the road in October. Does that make us road nuts or road figs or fig roads? I don't know.
Fig Roads, maybe? I don't know.
Fig Road sounds like a terrible brewery.
It does.
I'm going to call us Road Nuts. There we go. Or Road Nuts.
Done.
So, okay, that brings us to the end of the final episode of Season 6. Craig, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Summer is here, but the fantasy season is about to be in full swing, so I hope everyone is ready.
Pumpkin beer. That's the final thought. It's coming. It is my favorite time of the year.
It is. I think
I look forward to the pumpkin beer season at this point even more so than I do to Holiday Ale. Holiday Ale just has not met my expectations the last couple years. So I'm definitely Two Roads, if you're listening, and we know we have at least one friend at Two Roads who does. Two Roads, if you're listening, Holiday Ale. Let's make Holiday Ale great again. So yeah, definitely make that happen. But pumpkin beer season is like my favorite. I think it's because I know when the pumpkin beer shows up, football is coming.
That's fair. That's a fair.
I think
way
that is
to,
the association in my head. I think that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's just association in my head. So, one of the things you could do to help support our podcast is to leave us a review. Whatever podcast directory you found us on, go in there and leave us a review. We would really appreciate it. We are on so many podcast directories at this point that I no longer list them. And as we are getting into draft season, now is the perfect time. If you have any questions or you'd like another opinion on a specific situation, we're happy to hear you out. We are fignutsdfs@gmail.com. That is fignutsdfs@gmail.com. You can also tweet at us. I did log on to our Twitter for the first time in about 6 months. That was a depressing experience. Well, it's Scott Fishbowl season. So everybody's saying, oh my God, I got invited to the Scott Fishbowl for the 17th year in a row. We got in twice. We've applied every year. We've got in twice. And that's not a complaint. It's just a recognition. We're a smaller podcast. We're never getting back into that again.
Hey, you never know if each of us applied, right? Is that legal? Can we each apply?
Yes, actually, it's by individual, not by podcast. Most of the bigger outlets, like ESPN, gets like 10 people in every year.
Oh, all right then.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's always possible that we could go that route. But I'm done begging for the opportunity. You know what I mean? I think the fact that he wants to try and spread it out to as many people as possible is fantastic. It's just kind of depressing when you see all the people like, I'm in the Scott Fishbowl for the 6th straight year, and I'm like, oh, I didn't get an email. I feel like Charlie Brown when he checks his mailbox, he's got no cards. So I did actually log on to our Twitter. That's where I was going with this. I did actually.
As I saw that email that somebody logged into our Twitter account and I was assuming it was you.
And you know what was funny was the Twitter warning said I logged in from Brooklyn.
Yeah. Well, you have Cablevision, right?
Is that why?
Yeah, it depends wherever you're connected to at the time.
I am. I'm an Optimum customer, so yeah, they're based out of New York.
Yep.
Okay, because I was like, I actually looked at the time and date, and I was like, that is the time and day. It said iOS device. I was on my iPhone. I wasn't in Brooklyn, so So all right, so that makes a little bit more sense. That makes a lot more sense. So yes, you can reach out to us on Twitter, FignutsDFS on Twitter, and we're also the Football Fignuts Podcast on Facebook. Wherever you want to reach out to us, we would love to hear from you. And that, my friends, is a wrap on Season 6.
Dun, 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 dun.
Season 6, rest in peace. The year that I picked the Philadelphia Eagles to win under 8 games, or under 9 games, and didn't really work out so good.
It didn't. But yeah.
No. But at least I got a championship out of my Chiefs. I won a couple of fantasy titles. So Anyway, all
Jerk.
right. So we will be back next week. Well, I didn't win this year. Who won this year?
I thought it was you. It wasn't me.
That was last year. I beat you. Wasn't it?
See, why'd you just make me forget? I thought it was me.
Oh, Mario won this year.
I don't know. I have no concept of time anymore after COVID.
I'd have to go look at the website. If the source were here, he would know. But
he would know.
What's that?
He would know.
He would know because this happens, by the way, every year in our league. Every year in our league, by this point in the season, we've forgotten who won the previous year, and invariably we'll get to the draft, and someone will look up and go, "Who won last year?" And we all have to sit there and go, it wasn't me. No, I was the year before that. I was okay. I lost. I beat you. I lost to him, but okay, I don't remember what year that was. Oh yeah, it gets crazy. So, but we'll be back next week. The season 7 kickoff. Craig and I begin our 7th season of screaming about football at microphones. So we hope you will join us. Until then, hi to Deb.
Hi, Deb.
And until then, we will see you soon. My name is Britt.
I'm Craig.
And we are the Football Fignuts Podcast.